So we have created our redux store. Now we need to move them to separate files, but before we do that, you might want to give it a try how it works, right? So you can see here we are providing the redux store for our entire application. So this means we should be able to access the state and even update the state. So let's try accessing the state in the home page, just so that we feel a bit more comfortable on what we're doing, right? So to access the redux state, we can use some hooks. So we can bring in the hooks called use selector from React Redux. So import that from React Redux. So that one is use selector. Then we can use this hook. So here const, we want to access the state, right? So we want to access the state using this hook. So use selector. So use selector takes a function and returns the state. All right, so we can use arrow function here. Okay, so arrow function, so it gets the state. So it gets the state and it gives us the state. Simple as that. So that way we can access the state here. So let's try JSON stringify. JSON stringify state. Let's have a look. At the moment we don't have much in the state, and you can see here we have a user in the state which we wrote here. If you have a look here in our index.js, so we have created this state, and at the moment we have a property user which is handled by auth reducer, and it has the state with empty object at the moment. So that's why you see we have user with empty object. Now if you wanted to, you could put some data here just so that you can see how it works. So for example, let's say once we log in the user, maybe we will get the successful response from the backend. So that response will contain the user information, for example, username, role, etc. You will get the user available in the state by the name of Ryan, and let's say role seller. So you will have something like that in the state, user state. And if you go have a look here, give a refresh, you see you have access to the user from the state with this payload. So you can see this is how the Redux is going to help us access the state in any pages or components. So let me go back again to home. So here you can do that, or you can even further destructure. So instead of every time you need to access the user, you need to use state.user. Right, so that's not a problem, but you can even start in your code. So you can directly destructure user from the state, and then when you return the state, you can spread out the state object using 3 dots. Let's make sure we wrap it in parentheses. So this function is returning the state and spreading out the state. So when this state is spread out, we have user at the moment, but later we might have some more. So that whatever has been returned, whatever is in the state, we can directly destructure, and we can use like that, user. Let's have a look. State, let's give a refresh. State is not defined. So we accessing the user, destructuring from state. Okay, so we have already used user, so instead of now stringifying state, we do user. Perfect. Now you can see here we have the user data available from this Redux state. Beautiful. So this way you can access the Redux store in any way in your components. Now let's continue. Let's go back to our index page and let's refactor so that we move them to a separate files. So we want to move the reducer, and we want to move this part as well. So root reducer is also in a separate component. Okay, so here inside source, let's create a new folder called reducers. Here let's create a file, let's call it auth.js, and here let's copy that code. So we have here auth reducer. Let's take this, cut from here, and let's go to auth reducer and paste here. And let's go back to index again, and let's move this root reducer as well. So let's cut that and go to reducers folder, and we can create a file called index, and here we can just put that here, and we need to make sure we have the combined reducers. So let's go to index and bring that as well, combined reducers from redux. So we don't need that here. Let's cut from here, back to index, import combined reducers from redux. So we have this root reducer, we just export that, which means this auth reducer also we need to import, which is here in the auth. So let's do that as well. Import auth reducer. Now this is a destructured export. You can see here, this is not a default export, so we need to destructure from. So we just go into the same directory, auth. Perfect. Now we have everything here. We just need to export default root reducer. Now let's import this one. We are currently using use reducer in index, but since we moved the code, let's leave it here, and let's import root reducer. Import root reducer. Again, this is a default export, so we don't destructure this one, we just import like so from. So we need to go inside reducers, and that's all, because it's called index. So index, you don't have to write index, it just works. We just moved the code, moved reducer to its own file here, and we have index.js where we combine all the reducers and export as a root reducer, which we use in our index. Perfect. So we have the store here. Everything should be working as before. Let's give it a try. Okay, so home, login, register. We don't see the state anymore. Okay, so I noticed reducers, we have auth reducer. Let's go to auth reducer, and we forgot to export. Let's make sure we export const auth reducer. Okay, now let's have a look. Give a refresh. We have the state. Perfect. So this redux store, you can also have a look here in the browser. So if you go to inspect, open the tools here, and if you don't have that installed, I already have redux installed, and you can see here I can go to the state and have a look at the state what I have here. So you can see I have user in the state with the name and role. Perfect. Now if you don't have this one, make sure to go to Google Chrome extension, and you can search for redux, and then you can start using this one, redux. Redux dev tools, this is the one. You can see I already have here, so I have the option removed from Chrome. All right, so you can install this one, and since we have installed that package already here, composed with DevTools, you should be able to access your Redux store in the browser, which is absolutely awesome. It really helps out during development. Now this is it. This is our initial setup in the front end. We have the pages, we have routing system, we have state, we have these pages. We need to create login and registration form, obviously, and then we grab the user information, user email, password, and then we send it to our backend, and we can start saving the user in the database, implement authentication, and then integrate Stripe, and then slowly build our awesome marketplace. So that means in the next lecture, we're going to go to the backend, set up our backend so that we have a backend ready as well.